Hello, everybody. This is Nathan Hangen from nathanhangen.com, and welcome to another Game Changer interview. And today I'm really super pumped to be bringing you somebody that I know is full of inspiration and passion to the things that I love to death. And her name is Danielle LaPorte. She's getting ready to launch the Firestarter session. So, Danielle, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
All right, let's. I'll link up your intro and all that so people can that haven't heard of you can learn about you that way. So let's get right down to business. And I want to ask you one of your favorite things to do is ask people 5 questions. And so I want to ask you one of your own, which is, what are you positively addicted to, and maybe even define how you view that term, positively addicted.
Yeah, positively addicted is a term that my shrink gave to me. Actually, we were having a conversation about entrepreneurship, and I was talking about being addicted to the rush of making stuff, of having an idea and standing it up, and people getting it, buying it, using it. And I'm just driven, and driven can be like a bad thing, or driven can be a healthy thing, but I'm pretty driven to just keep putting stuff into the world. So I'm addicted to making stuff. And the actual definition of positive addiction is it's something about there's a rush involved, there's a high you get, and the result of it, there's an obsessiveness to it, but the result of it is always healthy. So
Okay, I like
that's
that because I'm positively addicted to the same thing, to be quite honest, which leads me into my next question, which is, one of the things about loving to create things is you kind of get too much going, and sometimes you have too much inspiration. So, talk to me about how you maybe deal with. Do you ever end up with a bunch of incomplete projects, and what do you do when you're inspired to do too much?
that's a great question. Well, I know there's a theory of focusing on one project at a time.
Hmm.
Doesn't work for me. Now, I'm focused on getting one thing done at a time. Like I don't like loose ends. I'm all about completion. Execution is secret to execution is all about execution. But I can never just be focused creatively on one thing at a time. Like even while I'm working on doing the Firestarter sessions book slash video, something will come across my mind. I think that's the next book. So I've got, here on my desk, I'm like making notes. This book is just for my next book. So I'll be typing away, doing a video, and I think, oh, that's gonna go there. So I've got my next two books lined up already. And like an old author friend of mine used to say, you've always got like 5 or 6 books on the go. You've got the thing you've done that's out of print and that's stale. You got the thing you're working on that's about to go to print or to digital in our case.
Yeah.
You've got the idea that you're shopping. Then you've got your new idea that you want to get working on as soon as you can. And then you've got the next like 2 or 3 ideas. So that's what works for me. But the overwhelm management is it's all about goal setting. You've got to just say, by X date, I am shipping this sucker, and you just drive to meet the date.
Yeah, I have the same kind of issue. I've learned that having multiple JV projects kind of helps me with that. So I keep the notebook. I use Evernote for me, and
Oh,
it's
you
just,
too.
yeah, just if I don't have a bunch of things going, then end up burning out, kind of. So I can appreciate that. Let me ask you, kind of switch gears a little bit. You talk about the 5 steps of grief and denial.
Mm.
And as entrepreneurs and people who are maybe want to become entrepreneurs, I wanted to ask you, do you think that a lot of people are in grief in terms of they're denying themselves the chance to go for it, maybe because of fear, or they don't think they're good enough?
Mhm. Hmm. Uh, so just unpack it a little more for me. So if you think, how do you think grief and fear are related? Like fear of your own greatness, fear of of succeeding, self-worth. What do you think it is?
I think at least the people that I've met, a lot of them are grieving that person that they thought they would become, but they never had the courage to become. So it's
Yes.
kind of like
Okay.
that.
Okay. Regret.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big part of it.
Regret. Yeah. Yeah. This is not where I was supposed to be. You've got to get over it. My God. I mean, if you are letting where you're at stand in your way, you will never get started. I mean, in my belief system, you're always in the perfect place. Even if that place is painful and uncomfortable, you're there. And part of that getting over it process, you've got to take full responsibility for getting where you are. If you're a couch potato, if your business is in the shitter, I mean, you helped create that situation. And I think once you stand up with that responsibility, then you realize, wow, I could create a more positive situation. And, you know, regret is, it's toxic. It's insidious. I have very few regrets in my life. And the ones I do have, I wish, oh, I still work on healing them and, just trying to make them into a gift and learn from them and use them as stepping stones. So yeah, you got to look forward.
Yeah, and in that case, you've talked about giving people the permission to be bigger. Could you
Yeah,
explain what you mean by that?
yeah, yeah. Well, that's what happens a lot in my one-on-one fire starter sessions is there's almost this apology, this apologizing that happens when people talk about their dreams. And so it's like, I want this, but I'm going to be more reasonable. Or I
Hmm.
want this, but historically it's never worked out for me. You got to keep wanting it. You got to feed the fire of the desire. And and this is why I'm such a big fan of coaching and I'm very clear. I'm not a coach. I'm not a coach. I'm a strategist. But getting someone in your circle who's going to be your cheerleader and say, we could push you. You want to make 50 grand? How about we move that to 100 grand and get rooted, just ratchet up what's possible for you. But and I'm also, I talk about this in the fire starter sessions. I'm all about the authentic dream. So big doesn't necessarily mean more money or publishing more stuff or a bigger, fancier title or a shinier car. Bigger means your whole self. And maybe your whole self just has a hobby farm and works 2 days a week, but that's you being actualized and liberated and not hemmed in anymore. That's big.
And kind of on a related note, I guess, what are some of the things that you teach people to kind of uncover that and how they can reveal that inner dream? Because I found that if I'm not authentic to myself, then getting out of the bed in the morning just isn't the same. You don't have
Hmm.
that motivation.
Hmm.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Hmm. Well, people, whenever I talk about authenticity, someone always says, "But what if I don't know who my authentic self is?" Like you can talk all day long about being yourself in the world, but what if you don't know who that self is? And my theory and my experience is that your true self, your authentic self, lives in your desires. So even if your current reality is crap and it looks nothing like you want it to look like, it's a dead end job, you're not living in the city you want to live in, et cetera, et cetera. Um, your desires are showing you your authentic self. So you're craving for more creative expression. You're craving a more supportive, dynamic relationship. You're craving to laugh. You're craving the sun. Those are reflections of who you truly are, and you have to move towards that. So, as cheesy as it is, it's like you have to dream more. And when you dream more,
Yeah.
what happens is you start making more choices. I'm always saying to people, make more choices every day. Choose what you're going to say. Choose, that ugly coffee mug that you got for Christmas. Like, choose to not have it. Choose what comes into your house. Choose to say no to all the stuff that's free that isn't really free. Choose who you're going to work with, and that goes hand in hand with dreaming more. When you're fostering that dream muscle,
Hmm.
you get more intentional. You get more creative.
So essentially, it sounds like you're talking a lot about mindfulness in terms of breaking the patterns and being present. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know all about that as a practicing Buddhist, right?
Yeah, not as much as I'd like, but we're always learning, right? And that's one of the things I was reading an interview, and you mentioned Rumi it being one of your favorite people, and I wanted to ask you which one of his poems, I guess, is your favorite, if you have a
Oh,
favorite.
oh.
Yeah.
Well, I always like, there are a thousand ways to do what you. There are a thousand ways to kneel and kiss the ground to do what you love.
Mm.
And there was another one that's always stayed with me, and this ties into the being anchored to your desires. Turn as the earth and the sun. No, turn as the earth and the sun turn, circling what they love.
Oh, that's cool.